Hi, welcome to the Sexuality Scale Project. This episode, we are talking about vagina confidence, almost threesomes, face licking, and how sex is best when just having a laugh.
I'm 24. I had to think about that. I know, I'm a baby, right?
Such a baby.
Especially in the Berlin scene.
And where are you from originally?
England, from Nottingham.
Why did you move to Berlin?
Oh, I never know what to say when people ask me that. People ask me that all the time, and I'm like, I don't know, because I wasn't supposed to move here and live here. That wasn't the plan. So, and now I'm here 2 years later.
Maybe it was a happy accident.
It really was. Like, I don't know what led me to this place, but I'm very, very happy that I'm here. I don't know, the short-ish version is that I met my best friend when I was working in London, and she's from Stuttgart. And she opened up my eyes to Germany. Never been to Germany before. Never considered it. Always knew I wanted to leave England. Thought I would go to Spain because I like the language and the men and the heat. But then she put Germany in my head. And I was doing a trip and I passed through Berlin. And I think I was walking in like Prenzlauer Berg around like Kastanienallee. And I got it into my head like, oh, maybe I could live here. But then I forgot about it and went back to England. And then the actual decision to move here was really spontaneous. I wasn't in a very good place in England, and it was like an act of desperation. So I just booked a ticket to Berlin, thought I would stay for a month, and then go to Spain. Then I stayed.
Is that because you met somebody here or no?
That is a good question. I don't know. I did meet somebody who I was seeing for 2 months. And he is maybe a part of the reason that I gave Berlin more of a chance.
Right.
But then it ended with him. And then I realised I still liked the city and I stayed.
What do you identify as? So, do you consider yourself a woman?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I do.
And
most of the time.
Sexual orientation-wise, you would consider yourself?
I would say very straight, but I'm open to options.
It's funny because that's becoming such a Berlin answer to me.
It has, right? And because I don't want to define myself. No, but I don't want to like just give myself this, because I know I've changed so much in like 4 years. So who knows? Maybe in another 4 years. And I don't want to rule out a whole thing. Like,
right.
If I meet a woman I'm attracted to, cool, that's an option. If I meet 2 women, if I meet a woman and a man and I want to have a threesome.
Have you ever had a threesome?
No, I had like a halfway threesome and I chickened out.
What is a half? Explain.
This is so me. These are all of my stories. It's like, oh, I almost, and then no.
What is a halfway? You mean halfway in a way where it didn't happen?
And like it could have been, but I freaked out. So, I was traveling and I was in Alicante, and I was in a hostel dorm with 8 people. There was a really attractive German guy, a Slovakian guy that I wasn't so into, and the German guy was having sex every night in the hostel dorm with a new girl, and he seemed very like innocent on the surface, but he was having sex every night and he was beautiful. And then one night he showed his interest in me and I was drunk, so I was like, cool. And then the Slovenian guy also sort of joined in. And then somehow we ended up all coming back to the hostel after going skinny dipping together.
So this is 2 guys.
This is 2 guys. Yeah, I should have said that. 2 guys who are probably quite a bit older than me at this point. I'm like 21. They're late 20s, early 30s. And somehow we went on a pub crawl and I ended up being the only woman. I was traveling on my own. And there were 5 guys and we all went skinny dipping. And I was drunk, so I was like, woo! And then we come back to the hostel and somehow me, the Slovenian and the German guy end up in the shower together. Because I was like, let's have a shower. So we have a shower. And then they're like standing next to each other. And they say, oh, no, let's put her in the middle because like this is too gay. So they put me in the middle and I'm just there like giggling and really drunk and like, oh. And then I realised that we're all naked and the dicks are hard. And I'm like, oh dear.
And that's the point where you chicken out?
No, then we go back into the hostel dorm, which has other people sleeping there. And we all get into my tiny single bed. My favourite part is the Slovenian guy gets out a condom, which is extra, extra large, slaps it on the bedside table when he's like, I'm ready. And then I'm in the middle and we're all in bed and I'm kind of like kissing the German guy and like that. And then the Slovenian's trying to do something and I'm just like, oh, no. And then I'm still with the German guy. And then in the end, the Slovenian guy realizes it's not going to happen. So he like just goes back to his bed, which is next to mine. And then the German guy carries on. And then I don't know, something in me was like, nope. And I was like, nope, sorry, can't do this anymore. Go. This happens a lot as well. And then the German guy went into his bed and I was like, oh, that was that. I don't know, I freaked out. At this point, I wasn't very sexually experienced. I didn't want to do it in a hostel room where there were women sleeping around me and that would hear it. And I really wasn't into the Slovenian guy. Like, was not attracted to him. He was very, like, typically masculine. He was a big guy and very, like, jovial and very, like, you know, manly. He had a presence, which was fine. And I was attracted to the German guy, but I felt a little bit like, ugh, because he'd had sex with all these women before in the room. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to be another one he can tick off. So for some reason that made me not want to do it. And also I'm sure they were probably 10 years older than me.
So you're saying that at that point you were not very sexually experienced? You didn't have a lot of experience?
Not at all.
You were 21. When was the first time you had sex?
It was 20. I had my first... So I was very late for everything. Like, I didn't have my first experience sexually until I was 19.
So you didn't fool around?
Nothing. I hadn't seen a penis.
Okay. Did you kiss guys before that?
Yeah, I kissed a lot. Like, when I was drunk, I would make out a lot.
Right.
But then I would never let it go any further. And I don't know whether that's having a very Catholic mother. The Catholic guilt. I don't know. Maybe. Right. Or because where I'm from, I don't have a great track record with English guys. I've never really been that attracted to them. They're not that attracted to me. So I was like, for ages, I was like, oh, maybe I'm a lesbian. And then I was like, well, I'm not interested in women either. So I was like, what do I do?
So you had never made out with a girl either?
No, I'm drunken, like, with my friend one time. She kind of made out with me and I was like, ooh. Because I wasn't really attracted to her. Like, I actually didn't really like her that much. So it was like, oh.
Right.
So, yeah, it was very...
It sounds very normal and standard to me, but I mean, I don't like the word normal because I don't believe in normality, but...
I don't believe in normality.
No, because for everybody, normal is something different, right?
This is true. But, like, from me and my position at that time, I was like, oh my God, all the women around me are with these guys and they've got boyfriends and they're having sex and I don't really want to have sex with any of these guys. I wasn't attracted to any of them, really.
So, basically, you're kind of picky, I would say.
Maybe. I thought that, but then I come to Berlin and it's like, oh, now I have options.
So back then, okay, let me rephrase that. Back then you were quite picky. And
no,
now
I would
you're
have
not.
been picky, but also where I'm from is a very small town. A lot of the guys are very similar. There weren't many options.
Right.
I think that's more what it was. It was like they're all, and you know, when you're like a teenager, especially, everyone wants to be the same. Everyone was the same, and I was like, I'm not interested in any of these. And I don't think they were that interested in me because I was really insecure. So it just never really happened.
So it's circumstance.
Yeah, a bit of circumstance.
You could have made it happen.
And eventually I did. Like when I first had sex, the guy wasn't really my type. I wasn't that attracted to him, but I was like, I want to have sex now.
Okay, so that was when you were 19, 20, you don't
20,
remember?
yeah.
Okay, 20. So tell me a little bit about that evening or day or afternoon, whenever it was.
Okay. So I'd never done any, like throughout the whole of university, I drank a lot and I kissed a lot of people, but I never went further. And I was studying law. And there was this one guy on my law program that like, he just embodied law. Like he was middle class. I think he was older than me by like 6 years as well. He looked older. And he was like the perfect law student. And I'd never really paid him any attention. Didn't really think he even knew who I was. Then in my final year, I'm in the supermarket and I look like complete trash. Like I remember just running out of my house to grab some food and I had no makeup on. I looked a mess. I was really insecure at this point anyway about how I looked. And then he sees me in the supermarket and he's like talking to me and having banter. And he leaves and I was with my flatmate and I was like, was he just flirting with me? She's like, yeah, he was totally flirting with you. And I was like, what the fuck? Really confused by it. And then that night we go out and it's a really small university town. So we bump into each other. We kiss in a club and I bring him back to mine. And that's the first time I fooled around with anybody. And he obviously wanted more. And I remember I didn't want to. So I was like, no, I can't. I was like, I just can't. I'm too drunk right now. Like, that's why I can't do this. Sorry. And then we went to sleep. But I didn't want to like go the whole way because I'd never done that before. But I didn't want him to know that I'd never done that before. So I just played it all like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I remember he clearly wanted a blowjob and I didn't know how to do that. So I was like, I would give you a blowjob, but then if I do that, it means we'll end up having sex. And like, we shouldn't do that tonight because I'm really drunk. But I was just really insecure.
Right.
So yeah, he stays over, whatever. He leaves in the morning. And then we kept in touch because he moved to a different campus, like 2 hours away. And then eventually I kind of knew it, like I wanted to have sex. He's a good person to do it with. Kind of feel comfortable with him. Why not? So we text and he arranges to come and like stay at my place that weekend. And he comes over and we have sex. And as far as like first times go for straight women, my time was nice. Wasn't amazing. But I've heard some really like horrible traumatic times from friends.
Right.
Mine was like, it wasn't great. I didn't finish. But it wasn't terrible.
So he just came over.
He came over to stay the night. I think we had sex first. The plan was we were going to go out for drinks. I think I drank before he came because I was really nervous. So I got kind of drunk. He came over and I just thought like, I just want to do this. So we just had sex in my tiny bedroom in the flat I shared with like 5 other girls who could probably all hear everything. And I was so insecure about being a virgin that I never told him, and I still don't know if he knows. And I just pretended like I knew what I was doing. And then I remember afterwards we went outside for a cigarette, and he was like, "Oh, so you've had sex before you came to university, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, so much sex."
Why did you feel the need to lie?
I don't know, and it's so stupid because now, like before, I would never have even told anybody how old I was when I lost my virginity. I was so insecure about it. And since moving to Berlin, I'm like, I don't care. Yeah, I've been having sex for 4 years. That's it.
But I find it very interesting because is that something that you had around you where girls were having sex already and you felt peer pressured? Like, were people around you having sex around, I don't know, 16?
Oh my God, 15. 14, 15.
Right.
That was the age.
But were they teasing you with it that you have never done it? Or was there some bragging involved? Like, how did it embed in you that you had to follow up on that?
I think more for me, because I always felt really lucky that I don't really give in to peer pressure. Like, if anything, that's why I waited longer. Because I was like, I'm not just going to have sex because everyone wants me to do it. It was more that my experience with English guys, if they know you're a virgin, it becomes this, like, fetishized thing where they want to take your virginity. And I didn't want it to be that. But also, I knew I'd be really, like, not confident and really insecure. So I felt like I just had to fake it to have a good time, like pretend like I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. And I didn't want it to be like a whole talk of like, hey, I don't really know you, but by the way, I'm a virgin. And I guess maybe a bit of me was worried he'd maybe go around and tell everybody, like, a quiet girl, she's a virgin, I took her virginity. So I guess you know what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
I totally get that.
Yeah.
I get all the reasonings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get
and because everyone always thinks like, oh, were you worried? Like, and my friends knew I was a virgin. Most of my friends in my life, and the women especially, knew I was a virgin. And by the 3rd year of uni, I was sort of over it. But I just didn't want to tell a guy. And then my one flatmate was like, oh, you should tell guys because they're so into taking virginity. Like, you'll have it taken in no time. And I was like, it's not like that. Like, I know if I could have sex when I want, but I'm just waiting for it to be when I actually want to have it.
That's really not that bad.
No. This is where I'm from, because I'm from a really small working class town. There's a lot of teenage pregnancies. Like, a lot of girls in my school were going out of school because they got pregnant. And it was common to lose your virginity at 13, 14, 15.
Really?
Yeah. And I was one of the few girls, from what people said, if they were being completely honest, which I kind of believe them, I was one of the few that hadn't had sex at this point. And because everybody was doing it, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I was being the typical rebel of like, well, everyone's doing that, so I'm going to do the opposite.
I was kind of the same way.
Yeah. And like, I really, speaking to some of my friends, I wasn't super sexual when I was younger. Like, they tell me how they were thinking about sex really young. It really wasn't on my mind when I was a teenager, like a 16 and under. I don't know. I wasn't really like, I thought about it, but I was like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Oh.
So, has anything, because then technically you've been sexually active for 4 years.
Almost 5.
Almost 5.
I just realized I'm going to be 25 soon, yeah.
Yeah, almost 5.
Which is crazy. It's like
yeah,
no time at all.
To me, you don't come across as somebody that has only been...
Yeah, and I feel very lucky that I think I'm very in touch with my sexuality, and like, I really like sex. And I'm very confident with it.
And you talk about it very freely.
Yeah.
Which I very much appreciate when we're hanging out and talking about it. There's nothing really holding you back.
Yeah. I think that's Berlin, really. I don't know if it was the same before. Berlin really made me like come in touch with sex. And like, Berlin was the first time I was having good sex. The first time maybe people were talking about it.
When did you have good sex? Like, when did that...
When I first moved here and I met this Australian guy.
Right.
So he was probably the first thing I had that would have been similar to a boyfriend. We were seeing each other for a very long time without him wanting to commit. And before that, I thought I had commitment issues because I kept meeting these guys and I was like, no, whatever. And like, I kind of liked them, but I'd pull back and then I'd freak out and be like, oh, no.
Why?
Now I think it's because they weren't right, but at the time I was like, oh, maybe I'm a lesbian, maybe I'm asexual, maybe I'm...
Why? But why were you having these doubts? Why were you thinking about these things?
Because I guess I didn't like them enough. Like, I don't know. I think because I wouldn't actively pursue guys back then. I wasn't very confident, so it would be the guys that came to me. And the guys that came to me were all a very similar type of guy, which is really not my type. They were all very, like, shy and the kind of guy that falls in love instantly, and they'd all be like, oh my god, I love you. And I'd be like, you don't know me. And it would freak me out. Yeah, it would really freak me out. And I wasn't that attracted to them. So for ages I was like, oh, what's wrong with me? Like, I can't picture myself with somebody for a long time because I can't even picture getting into a relationship with anybody. And the sex was like, I guess part of me knew that I wanted to have sex, and I really liked the experience of like having sex and being naked. I love being naked. But it was always such a disappointment. And then I moved to Berlin and I was like, oh, sex can be good. And like, there are guys here that I'm attracted to and that are interesting and that I can connect with. And I don't have this weird commitment phobia. So yeah, I don't know what the turning point was, but it was something to do with coming to Berlin.
So the first time you had sex, you didn't have an orgasm, I'm guessing.
No, I never do.
So still not.
Mm-mm.
So you never have an orgasm.
First time, no.
The first time is nerve-wracking. I find,
but it's also
exciting. There's an excitement and there's kind of like this awkwardness, like, oh, now I'm gonna have to tell her that. You know, for me.
Do you think?
See,
I think that,
like that first time is always going to be
you
like,
would tell people?
I've gotten better at just kind of going with the flow, and until they do something that I don't like, then I tell them. I've been with women where they were quite rough right from the get-go.
That surprises me because it's like, I mean, I get with men, I'm like, they don't quite understand, and sometimes they're very rough, and I'm like, okay, they don't have a vagina, they don't understand.
No,
they're sensitive.
That's the shocking truth of...
Yeah.
You know, then that's why I'm so in my head, like, I need to tell her before she does that. Because if it hurts, and I don't want to get to that point, especially that first time.
But do you tell people the first time? Like, you would have no problem telling them, like, oh, I don't really like that, and can you do this, and you're doing this wrong?
Well, here's the thing, and this is my philosophy about the first time you're having sex with someone. Ask them what they like.
Yeah. See, a long time to be comfortable enough to tell somebody. Like, I think I'm hinting, I'm like, you know, moving them a little bit and being like,
so there's body language.
But some people are like not very good at picking it.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
So, but I did notice that whenever a woman would do that to me, she was not reading my body language. She was absolutely not in tune with how I was reacting to certain things.
Yeah.
Because the moment she was actually doing the right thing, and you can tell...
Yeah.
She was not continuing that. She would switch it
men.
up and do something completely different. I'm like,
oh my god.
And in your head, you're kind of like,
you're like, that was
what were
so
you
close.
doing?
And then you
so close.
You threw in a curveball, and now where have you gone? But I think this is
it's a general problem, which I'm obviously with this project trying to solve.
It is a general problem.
Because I think the key here is to ask, and while you're doing it. So just a simple thing of, before you stick anything in anything, you go, is this okay?
Like, no, anything can be done in a
You can do that
way.
as dirty talk as well.
Yeah.
You know, there are ways to kind of figure out, like, even if you can't read the body language, because I'm trying always very hard to read the body language. Yeah. I think there is a smoother way of doing it, but I do think that, you know, the nervousness and the insecurity comes into play. You don't want to sound like a dickhead.
And men, they take, sometimes that if they're insecure, or you don't even realize they're insecure until you ask them to do something or stop doing something.
Really?
Oh my God, this happened to a lot of men, but particularly with a certain ex of mine, after I started sleeping with him again. And I asked for him not to do something, and then he got really weird about it. And same with other guys.
But wait, did he do it before? Is this something that he had done before that you let him do?
He sort of, and like I thought from my body language it was clear, like I wasn't really against it. I think this is my problem, I'm very easygoing, so I'm like, meh, this isn't amazing for me, but I'm not really against it. But
so that it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. It's just kind of like, oh, it's not really doing anything for me. Like, it's just a bit like, I don't know, because this past year in particular has been me really coming more into like being sexual and knowing what I like and being more comfortable telling people. So I was sort of just like, oh no, I don't like that. And I've said that to a few guys, and then they get really weird. Like, they'll be like, oh, what do you mean you don't like this?
May I ask what specifically it is?
It's not even anything super sexual. It's just... it's really weird to explain. It's a lot of, like, slobbering. Like, a lot of kissing and slobbering everywhere.
What did I do? I'm fascinated by this story. Because what is the slobbering that you're referring to?
I hadn't experienced it before either. But it's a lot of... like, just like slobbering like a dog, or like a lot of licking.
But where? Where are
everywhere. Like, I'm talking about the face, the ears.
Wait a minute. They lick your cheek or something?
my cheeks. Yeah.
They lick your cheek?
Yeah, just a lot of licking and the ears. And I'm just like...
like, I'm a very open-minded person. But I find face licking...
yeah, same. It would make me kind of like, ugh, because I'm like, wait, now you've slobbered all over my face, and now I don't feel sexy anymore.
Okay, ear nibbling and ear kissing, like...
if it's done right, that can be nice, but just sticking your tongue into somebody's ear... so...
no, because then you can also hear it.
Yeah, I just felt super like, ugh. And just, like, it's not necessary. It's not turning me on. I mean, maybe it was turning him on. I don't really know.
I'm sure there are people, I don't want to offend anyone. I'm sure there are people out there that are into that and like it and like doing it. And that's totally fine.
From my body language, you could tell that I was just sort of like...
but again, ask if somebody's into it.
Or just pick up... I think my biggest problem is because I think I'm quite good in bed, because I'm good at picking up on body language and what people like. And I'm very good at going with it. I'm like, okay, they don't like that, I'll do this. So I kind of expect the same in return.
No.
Exactly, which is
no, but that's my whole point.
Yeah.
That's my whole point. That's the thing. I think people assume that whatever they like, the other person will like too.
No, but I just assume that somebody will realize that I'm not into it and they'll change course.
I thought the same way. I thought when two people are having sex, they will get into tune with one another to figure out, even when they're in love, to figure out what the other one really likes.
Yeah.
But I always thought that people would be in tune with each other. And I'm also blessed that I did have partners that were very much in tune, but I've also noticed some people weren't. And then I started figuring out by asking people around me that not everybody is like that. They are not always going to be in tune with you and trying to figure out how you operate.
And they shouldn't. Like, I can't expect them to be psychic and like guess exactly what I like.
Right. So what would you suggest then? If you're in bed with somebody that isn't like that, who isn't in tune, what would you suggest then that you would do to have better sex with a person like that? Because they're obviously not figuring it out on their own. So would you tell them more?
I think you have to tell them, but it's having that conversation. And in my experience, that conversation's never really gone well. Like, I'm at the point now where I will tell guys, like, I want to have good sex, so I'm going to tell them what I like and what I don't like. And luckily, the men I've been with lately are very taking that on board. But in the past, they're like, yeah, and then they just don't do it and they keep doing what they were doing before, and I'm like, okay. Or they get kind of weird and insecure, and then they get more weird because like I'm not finishing, and they're like, why is she not coming? And then
they're just not putting that together. The fact that you said something,
or they are, but there's some kind of missing link. And then they're like getting weirdly insecure about themselves, like, oh, I'm not good. And I'm like, it's not that you're not good, but it's just we're not clicking.
Shout out to the guys, please do, and the girls, please do not be insecure when people tell you.
Yeah, for me, like it's not happened very often because I don't think guys do it so much. But when guys do tell me what they like, I'm like, yes. I'm like, okay, I know what to do now. Like even more so, like thanks. It's nice to have that, and that for me is the best sex. Like the times I've had really good sex is where it's been like a great flow and we've had this connection and it's coming naturally, but you trust each other enough to be like, hey, do you like this? And like, can I do this? And what about this? And
yeah, those are the most fun.
Yeah, that's when it's perfect.
Yeah. Tell me about one time you had sex that was amazing, that you still sometimes think about, like, I wish that could be every day.
Maybe the first time that I had really good sex was the guy I was seeing when I first came here. But the thing for me is it never starts off good. So like the first few times I was like, whatever, wasn't really into it. And then somewhere along the way it just got really good. And there was a point where I guess I got super confident and I finally relaxed and I was taking a bit more charge, and anything he would do, my body would just completely like collapse and just freak out. Like he could just the slightest touch, and it just really fucking turned me on. Like every time I was just.
Did this have anything to do with him as a person as well? Like, were you into him as like just when you were hanging out, having drinks or having dinner? Like, were you into him?
He was the first guy that I was like, wow, why is this guy into me? Like,
was that it?
Maybe. Like, he was hot, he had muscles and tattoos, and he was like the bad boy, and he was older than me, and I'd just moved to Berlin, and I was really insecure and like, rah. So I was like, oh my god, this guy is into me, and he had a lot of sex. Like, he liked to talk the talk about not settling down. He's had like a million girlfriends. He's always got a girlfriend. He can't do this like one night stand kind of thing. And we started off as being a one night stand that turned into basically a relationship, but then he couldn't commit.
So he's a serial monogamist.
This is what I actually said to him. He's a serial monogamist, but he looks, first impression, you think like, oh, bad boy. And he does talk a big talk about having a lot of sex, but he doesn't really do it. He always ends up falling into a relationship. So I think, yeah, maybe it was the first time I was having sex. Actually, he was the first person I had sex with consistently. Before him, I'd only slept with 3 guys, and he never believed me either. I was like, you're number 4, and he never believed me. He was like, what are you talking about? You've probably had sex with like 20 people. And I was like, no, you're number 4. But okay. And he was the first person I'd had sex with more than twice. So he was the first like regular. So I guess the first time I got into a routine with somebody, really got to know them. And he was just really fucking good. Every time.
From what I'm hearing, it's probably because practice makes perfect.
Yeah. And just being very attracted to somebody. And I
really, really, really physically being
super. We had such lusty. It was very lusty.
Yeah.
It was nice. We hung out a lot. We went to Hamburg together. He was nice as a friend. But then I remember looking back and being like, oh, we didn't really have that much in common. And I don't think he really got me. I don't think he completely understood me. He was a bit like, oh.
So, I want to talk about something else.
Okay, what do you want to talk about?
I want to switch from the really comfortable, loving sex that you had. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that later because I don't want to end on a sad note. But I want to talk about, have you ever had an experience sexually where you didn't want something? It felt very uncomfortable and you wanted it to stop?
See, I feel like, touch wood, I've been pretty blessed with my sexual experiences, especially when I've spoken to friends. Like, they've had some horrible times. And I've been very lucky when nothing like really too bad has happened, and this isn't like it's a very different spectrum, but I'm very good at telling somebody like, no, stop it, and luckily they've listened a lot of the time, most of the time. The only things that were kind of uncomfortable was when I was still a virgin, and in the months leading up to me losing my virginity, I was getting really like restless and I wanted to do something, but then I was pulling back at the last minute and getting scared. So I heard this term blue balls a lot, like, oh, you're giving me blue balls, and like, she's such a tease, and there was one time a guy at my university who had slept with my housemate, and she kind of liked him, so this was a really dick move on my part. But he was in like a mutual group of friends. I ended up getting really drunk, and he took me back to his house, and he was really older than me. Like, I'm not quite sure how old he was, but I think he was 30 something and I was 19, 20, and very naive. He takes me back to his house, and like, we're fooling around, and he obviously expects we're going to have sex, but I'm like, oh no, I don't want to have sex with you. And he's like, what? I'm like, no. And then he keeps like trying, and he never actually penetrates me with his penis, but he's being very rough with his hands. And I remember I quickly got out of the situation. I was like, no, I need to go to the bathroom. And I went to the bathroom and I was bleeding.
Really?
I think he probably popped my hymen. Maybe, because it wasn't a lot of blood. Because I was a virgin.
Why? Well, yeah.
So I remember being like, oh. Ugh.
But actually then, that was the moment you were not a virgin anymore, technically.
Yeah, which is like, great. I don't want it to be him. Like, ugh, he gives me these really bad vibes. Yeah, I don't know if he popped my hymen or if he was just super rough. And then now I'm so annoyed, because now I would have just left his apartment. But I went back into the room and I slept there, and he kept like waking me up and trying, and I was like, no. And I just couldn't wait for it to be the morning because I wanted to leave.
Why did you stay?
I don't know. I didn't know how to get out of it at the time, which is so stupid, because now I'd just be like, look, I'm going. But firstly, I didn't really know where I was, because we'd walked back in the dark from the city centre back to his, and it was dark and I was drunk and I didn't really know where it was. I mean, my university town was small. I could have maybe figured it out. So I was waiting for the morning, and then he said he'd drive me back to my apartment or my house in the morning. So I was just waiting for it to be the morning. And yeah, I don't know what, I should have just left, but I just stayed. And then I think I tried to get up in the middle of the night, and I thought maybe I can sneak out. And he woke up and he was like, oh, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm just going to the toilet. And then I came back. And then in the morning, he like put me in his car and he drove me home and he kissed me. And he's like, oh, we should do that again sometime. And it was just,
the perception of
yeah,
reality at that point, I find fascinating, of two different people.
Right? That he thought like, oh, we should do that again sometime. Whereas I was just waiting to get away.
Right. It's just sometimes fascinating to me when I hear stories where I'm like, wow, that the other person really did not realize what exactly just happened and what went down.
Because now I look back, I must have been so uncomfortable and so awkward, because I was really insecure about my body at that point too. So I don't think I got completely naked. I don't think I let him take everything off, because I was really like, ugh. And that made me uncomfortable. And then he was getting his like penis out, and I was just like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. And I had, before I lost my virginity, I had this weird thing of like, I can't lose my virginity. And like, I was being very like guarding it carefully, like, oh no. So I probably freaked out a lot, like, no, we can't have sex. But for him, he was like, oh, let's do that again. Come on.
He kept asking.
Yeah, I think
that's recognizable.
Wear me down, yeah. But now I look back, I'm like, this was such an unfair, like, an unbalanced playing field. Like, he was 30, I was 19, but mentally and experience-wise, I was so naive and immature. And he really wasn't. And he was, yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like I was kind of an easy target sometimes for these guys, because I was like, really insecure and like,
Were you very shy?
Yeah, university. Yeah. I wasn't very comfortable with how I looked. I was bigger back then. I didn't really know what to wear. Didn't really know what to do with myself. Wasn't very comfortable with wasn't very sexual. Yeah, nothing. And
now you are? You're more comfortable with your body?
Yeah,
you're more comfortable
completely.
with yourself?
Yeah. And I think maybe that's ties into why I really like sex now, because I'm very comfortable and I really get to enjoy it now. But then it was like, oh.
Yeah, I do think being comfortable with your own body and loving yourself is definitely very important. If you look in that mirror and you still see somebody that is not happy with themselves, I personally think it's going to be a lot harder to let somebody else love you.
Yeah.
Always. I think that's more the thing, because RuPaul always says, what is it? If you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Gonna name it. But I don't think it's really actually that. It's that if you can't love yourself, you will not be able to allow somebody else to love you.
Yeah.
I think that's
kind of I wouldn't let anybody in close enough because I was freaking out too much about myself.
Yeah, so it was a combination of you feeling insecure about yourself and feeling insecure about still being a virgin.
Yeah.
And that combination of.
Yeah, I felt like there was this whole world that everyone was talking about because it was just me and one girl I knew at university that was a virgin. I felt like there was this whole world of like sex going on that I just wasn't invited to or that I wasn't involved in. And it was like really overwhelming. And then the little times I had some kind of experience with a guy, I was like, well, that was disappointing. Like maybe I don't want to be invited to this world. Maybe I don't want to go to this party.
Yeah.
You know? Like really.
But again, that's all perception, isn't it?
Completely perception. Yeah. And me being so insecure about like how I looked, like that was when I was in my head with sex because I was like, oh my god, now I look really fat and like and like I didn't even know like being self-conscious of your vagina was a thing until all my girlfriends around me were like, oh my god, my vagina's like slightly floppy and like this vagina's ugly and like you should shave all of your vagina. And I was just like, what? I didn't even know to think of these things.
That was a whole additional world that opened up for you.
Yeah, I was just going along like, what to do?
I'm enjoying the pun there of opening up. But somebody told me, a woman who was talking about other women, she told me that she doesn't always like sex with certain women. I mean, that she likes it, but she doesn't always find every vagina very pretty. Yeah. And I was in shock. And I was like,
really?
What did you just say to me? She's like, yeah, don't you know that some vaginas are kind of ugly and some very pretty? And I'm like, what is the difference of pretty and ugly between vaginas? Like, if you're into that person, everything should be pretty on that person. I'm really not.
I think you're the exception here because I hear this so much. Like, oh, there's like ugly vaginas and.
But how is that? Every vagina is different, and they're all pretty.
Because the common perception is like. The rare people have this pretty vagina.
But is this coming from porn movies? Like, there's
completely. It's all from porn, of course. Like this perfectly compact vagina where nothing sticks out, and it's all shaved and it's perfect. And then I guess that's because I never watched porn when I was growing up, so I think
a lot of those vaginas are fake. I think there's this whole secret conspiracy of vaginas getting rejuvenated, and they're gonna be everything's getting tucked.
Probably.
No, I heard about that. Yeah. No, it's true. Like, they get the inside floppy things.
That is a whole surgery. I looked into that. I was like, why could we not just be happy? Like, oh.
No.
And if a man ever tells me my vagina is ugly, then he's not getting close to it. I'm sorry. Goodbye.
I'm very happy you said that.
Yeah, because I've actually had this. I had these, the bad experience I just had with the guy that made me bleed. Afterwards, we all went out one night to a bar in the group of mutual friends we had. One of his friends, who was a guy that had been flirting with me before, made some kind of joke about like floppy labia. And I was like, excuse me, what? And it wasn't really until I put the pieces together later that I was like, his friend must have told him that like we fooled around and he saw my vagina. And then that's when I was like, whoa. Like, if anyone's going to make fun of my vagina again, then they don't get to get close to it.
No, they shouldn't.
Goodbye.
My vagina is great. They do not deserve your pretty vagina.
And like,
I just find I was just really shocked. I mean, that guys can be assholes about it. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, sorry to say this, I'm a feminist, but it's a little expected. But if women are talking that way about women, I'm a little disappointed.
Women are more rough about it. I've had women be more down on themselves. To be honest, apart from that one guy, I've never had a guy be like, your vagina's ugly, or talk about ugly vaginas.
If I was into men, I totally love men, don't get me wrong, and I find them very pretty. But if I was like into their balls and penises as well, I never say to my guy, like, oh my God, your balls are so
Yeah.
hangy. Like,
Like,
it
when is
looks
that
like a
ever a
Christmas
thing?
ornament.
Exactly.
Like,
But that is
that's
so not
a
a thing.
horrible thing to say.
It's
And I would not even come close to thinking that, because I would
No.
be into him. I would love his body and I would love everything
Yeah.
about him. So I would just say, like, I love your balls, dude. Your balls are
Your
great.
balls are great. It doesn't matter that they're super droopy.
And I would mean that. I would
Yeah.
not even say that to make him feel better. Like, I would just, but I think if you're really into somebody, you would like every part of them. So if somebody says that to me, I'm like, you're not really into this person if you don't think their vagina is pretty. I'm sorry.
No.
I don't get that.
And that it all comes from fucking porn. People
I
get
think
this
so.
unrealistic expectation. And then they're confronted with like reality, because like no one's vagina or dick is the same. Everything's different. And some things are gonna hang and some things aren't.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that.
It's called gravity.
Yeah. And I've never looked at a dick and been like, oh damn, that's an ugly dick.
I've only been with one person who was vagina conscious to the point where it was actually affecting the sex.
Really?
Because she felt so insecure about it. And so, on further investigation on my part...
On further investigation? When
well, no, at this point, I mean, we're fooling around, and she's saying that, and I'm kind of like, hold up 1 second. I need to investigate this. What are you talking about? Exactly, that's exactly what I did.
Okay, good.
I went down,
on a little exploration.
South on an exploration travels to check it out.
Went a little vacay.
I actually was like, and I looked at her, I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, the things that are on the outside that should be on the inside. And I'm like,
what is that?
Who told you that?
Who told you that's how it should be?
I thought she was talking about some horrible medical thing that she had, that like her womb was sticking out of her. You know, like I thought there was something horribly wrong with her.
Flaps.
And I was just fascinated by it. Like, what is wrong with you? And I was really like medically, invested in figuring this out for her. And I'm going down there, and there was absolutely nothing wrong down there. And I'm like, and I mean, even if there was something wrong, it wouldn't have been wrong.
No.
It would be her.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, who put this in your head? And apparently her exes and...
What? They told her that?
Some
Wait,
of
were her exes men or women?
Women.
Oh, women.
So I think one ex or some of her exes put that in her head, that there was something weird with hers. And I'm like... Where the freaking hell did they get that from?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just...
And
I told her, I actually told her, yours is going to be way more sensitive than others' vaginas where that isn't happening. Because it makes it actually more sensual if you play with that. And I was like, have you never figured that out? And she was like, I never thought of it that way because I feel so insecure about it. I'm like, stop.
That makes me so sad, because so many people aren't enjoying sex because they're so insecure about how like their vagina looks, and you can't change that. Like, you've got to accept it. That's how it looks. You can't, unless you're gonna have some like surgery where you tuck it in. And then you got to live with it.
Have you ever had a guy say something to you about the smell?
No.
No?
Apart from that they like it.
Okay.
Like, in a good way. Like, that surprised me. A lot of guys like, oh, it smells good, or like, oh, I really like the taste of you, and I'm like, what? Really?
Nice.
But I'm like, okay.
Where are those men? Let's marry them and have their babies.
I think I have been really lucky with the men I've had sex with. Like, I don't know. Since I left England. The non-English men I've had sex with. Yeah.
I guess you met here.
Because I know this is a stereotype of like, oh, it stinks down there, but the thing I have had is I don't shave that down there, and I don't want to, ever.
Do you have a 70s bush or an 80s bush?
An 80s bush. It's from right out of the 80s.
Nice.
And that's because when I first started having sex, everyone was like, you got to shave. So I was like, okay. So I shaved, and I felt so weird, and my vagina looked weird. And then I got some like weird infection from like shaving down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it's not... So then I just stopped. And now it always seems to take people by surprise. More the women that I tell, like my women friends are like, oh, what do you use to shave? And I'm like, I don't shave. And they're like, oh, as if it's some like...
shock.
Yeah,
horror.
as if it's some like big act of me being like a revolutionary. And I'm like, no, for me, it's super normal. And I forget that most people don't do that, I guess. And luckily I've had guys kind of, they mention it, but they've never I've had some guys kind of joke about it, but then straight away I'm like, look, if you don't like that, you can fuck off. Because I'm not changing that.
If you have coarser, thicker hair, like I do, then letting it grow out very long is actually super uncomfortable.
Really?
It
For
gets
the person or for yourself?
It's very itchy. No, for myself. I don't care about other people.
No, that's what I wondered what you meant. Okay.
Ladies, do not shave anything for other people. Do it for yourself.
Yeah, but sadly that's not what happens.
Well,
like every woman I know,
if they're happy that way,
yeah,
then I don't care either.
But a lot of women I know, it's like their boyfriend has said to them, like, hey, it's kind of too prickly down there, can you shave it? I'm like, fuck you. And that's how I felt shaving. I was like, oh, I feel like an 11-year-old. I don't feel like a sexy woman.
Not like a full-grown adult. Yeah.
No, I feel weird.
That's the thing I don't like about it. So, it's preference.
Yeah, completely. And if you're doing it for yourself, then please keep doing it.
Some women say that when they do it, and I think men as well, when they do it, like their balls get more sensitive, and for women, the lips get more sensitive. So I get that. I totally get that. But it always did kind of make me feel like a pervert.
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
But isn't it weird that a lot of men like that? Straight men like it being shaved because it plays into this whole like fantasy.
I think so. The young girl
that's
thing.
Porn. They never see a hairy bush anymore in porn. Everything's shaved. Some porn
they do.
Yeah.
One last question. Do you always do it safe?
Yes.
That was a very doubtful yes. Yes.
Because define always. No, because I feel very lucky that I think it's my Catholic mother, is like I'm always very
not a bad thing.
Safe. No, that is something she has blessed me with. I'm always having 10 condoms right at the ready, like woo. And I will always use them.
I'm actually very proud of your own condoms.
Yeah. Oh my god, and I went through a phase, I'm getting better now, but I used to, the guy would get out a condom and I'd be like, hell no, we're using mine. Because I was so paranoid. I was like, theirs could be out of date. They could have made a hole in it.
They could have.
They could have done. Now it's like I tend to trust the people I'm sleeping with maybe a bit more, so I let them use theirs. But back then, I would always use mine. And yeah, there's only been... One was a boyfriend. We had unprotected sex and that was like, oh shit. So I took the morning after pill. Or I tried to get the morning after pill in Germany and the woman at the apotheca laughed at me because I had sex on my period and she was like, you can't be pregnant. And I was with my then boyfriend at the time too and he was like, what?
I would have laughed as well. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And I was like, just give me the morning after pill. And they were like, you don't need it. And I was like, just give it to me.
Do you now know?
Yes, now I know how biology works. But there is still a really slim chance that you can be pregnant, which is what I was trying to tell her at the apotheca. Well, there's like a 1% chance you can be pregnant. And I didn't want that, so I was like, give me the pill.
you wanted to
give
dismiss
all of it.
The 1%.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Welcome. Now I know about periods and biology.
And this is the perfect preparation for you to be sexually successful in Berlin.
Oh, yes, that's the aim.
That is the aim, isn't it?
That's going to be my biography. Sexually successful. At last.
One last question. This is really my last question.
This is the final one?
This is the final one. How do you see yourself now living in Berlin in your sexuality? Because you said you've kind of grown into your own sexuality. And you've had one relationship. Would you say now you're open to having more casual sex or, I don't know, like serial monogamy, however you see it? Or would you rather now kind of really look for a partner here?
I don't know. It's complicated because when I finished my relationship, I was like, I'm ready to be single and have fun. Like, I'm finally in a city where there's men I'm attracted to. They're attracted to me. There's some good sex to be had. So for like 3 months, I was being single. I was having lot of sex and was having a good time. And then always when you're not looking to meet somebody, or for me, when I'm not looking for something, I end up staying with the same person. And now I don't know. Like I would love to have sex and be single and woo and have fun, but I don't want to rule out if I meet the right person or if I meet someone that I really get along with. I don't want to turn that down because I'm like, oh, I'm being single right now.
Right.
So I'm always open to the idea. I think I needed to be on my own for a bit after the really intense relationship I had. But I don't want to rule out completely.
Because how long didn't you have sex after you guys break up?
A week.
Right. Well, that was kind of what I was getting at, because you say, like, I wanted to be alone, but you weren't really alone then. Like, not sexually. But
I'm very weird. So, like, I broke up with him and then I had sex with a lot of men for like 2 months. And then
What is a lot of men? How many men?
6 men in a month. That's a lot, right?
That's a lot. Yeah.
I think that's a lot too. I'm
just impressed with the time that you had for it.
I know, me too.
Like, how did you fit that in?
I know. My flatmate, oh bless her, she was amazing because she was meeting all of them, and she was probably hearing things, and she was just like, "You go, girl." And then she was like, "Which one is this again?" And that was really great for, like, I needed it for that time, but then
you needed to get it out of your system.
Yeah, and then things kind of gradually faded, and then I didn't have sex for like quite a while. And then I ended up meeting somebody who now I have just regular sex with.
Because I'm getting to a point.
Yes, what was
the point?
Sorry, I drifted off.
No, but the point is, I mean, you know, that it's obviously about what type of sexuality do you have. It sounds like in that period of the month where you were having sex with 6 different men, you didn't really build up a long enough relationship with them to really get to know them.
No, but then my thing is I've never really had like a proper one-night stand, and I never just have sex. If I have sex with somebody, there's something I've seen in them that I liked enough to have sex with them. So these 6 men, I actually really liked pretty much all of them. One was sort of an accident, and it was my friend, and we both regretted it straight away. We were like, no, that shouldn't have happened. The other one I liked, but he had a girlfriend, so it was like, oh shit, that's not happening. And then the other 2, I was kind of dating them, and I really liked both of them.
Why didn't it work out?
One of them is my typical type, and I still vaguely talk to him now. I've known him for a while, and I really like him, but he's a very depressive kind of guy who disappears off the face of the earth for like months at a time. And it just got too much. I got really bored of it after a while. I was like, wait, I don't need to be with this depressive guy all the time that's gonna disappear and then come back. And also the sex. It was nice, but it wasn't my style. It was him making me do a lot of stuff, and that's not my style of sex. I'm like, I'd rather the guy takes charge. So I just stopped talking to him, and then it faded out. The other guy, I was sort of a dick to him because he was really nice, but he got really insecure because he couldn't make me come. So then he kept making a new date, and I was like, oh no, sorry, I can't do it. I didn't really handle that very well, to be honest.
Right, you said something about not being able to come.
Yes. And
we didn't continue on that.
Maybe we shouldn't.
That's fine.
Yeah, but usually, no, I know how to make myself come, and I normally when I've never came straight away with a guy, like it takes a bit of time. But at the moment I've hit kind of a wall and I can't come.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that something in your head?
Probably. And it normally happens when I start to like a guy, and it's like, ooh, this isn't just casual anymore.
It's all in your head.
Yeah.
How does the guy handle that?
Not very well.
Because he was successful before, and now suddenly he isn't? Is this what's happening?
Yes, with some of them, yeah. Or some of them it's like been very sporadic. Like they have made me come and then not for a bit and then again. And they're a bit confused. Some guys I've had amazing sex with and I've never came. Ever. And then they get really insecure and they freak out. And I have to be like...
But you're saying it has been amazing sex.
Yeah, like it's been fucking amazing. And then there's me having to try and justify it to them. Like, it is really amazing. I'm having a great time. I'm not coming.
Right. Do you then finish it off by yourself after?
If I'm comfortable with the guy, yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm getting better at that. Back then, no, I would have been like, but now I'm just like, I'm going to do this.
What does he do when you're doing that?
Good question. He kind of helps.
Good.
Yeah. Depending, I'm trying to think which guy in particular, but yeah, some of the guys help.
Good.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah. And that's nice. But some get insecure. Like, I had to start asking, like, not asking, but being like, I'm going to touch myself right now. Is that okay?
No, I've had partners who couldn't come.
Couldn't?
No.
Right?
Only when they did it themselves.
Right? Please tell me this, because men freak out and then they make you...
No, it's perfectly normal.
It is normal, and then they make me feel super weird because then they get insecure and I have to be like, it's not you, and they're like, oh my
No,
God.
it's just their body.
Yeah.
No.
Insult to your fucking pride.
It's not you, it's me.
And I've actually said this to a guy and he was like, oh, that sounds like something you'd just say. And I'm like,
no.
And honestly, the sex with him was amazing. And then he said that and got really weird about it. And
then
put
it's
me
just
off.
ruined.
It was ruined completely. I got really insecure because I was really having a great time. And then he was like, if you come in, and it kept asking. And I was like, stop checking. Like, I probably would have come, but you kept making me insecure.
The pressure that somebody can give you.
Yeah, the pressure to come
is
it's ridiculous.
Orgasm's not the biggest goal of having good sex.
Do you know how many times I've had to explain this to men, and I can tell they don't really believe me.
What's fascinating for me is that I know all these things, and I know that people have that. What's fascinating to me is how people that are with them react to it, and that's the thing that bothers me. And I think I want to that to stop. Like the story about what people consider the weird vagina and how people react to that. I want that to stop. Stop bullying people and making them feel weird.
Yeah, for how
stop
they can't change.
Giving them grief about the fact that they can not have an orgasm in that moment in time. Yeah. We all work differently, and that's what I want to stop. Like, I want people to start respecting each other and how different they are and how similar they are.
Yeah.
So
I second that. Right. And then people have tried to make me feel like I can't be really sexual and enjoy sex because they're like, but you didn't come. And I'm like, but I had amazing sex.
Exactly. So having an amazing sexual experience is the happy end is sometimes a very fictional thing that's being put in our head that's the goal that we're heading for. We need to have that orgasm. I know that sometimes it's frustrating when you can't come because you're really close and you're like, and it's frustrating. But then there's other ways to go around it to still come, but then do it differently or do something else. Yeah. Or calm down, have a cup of tea and then start again. I don't know. But you need to figure that out together or by yourself. I don't know. But it's not something that somebody else should be pressuring you. Because
that's when you completely lose it. Like, there's no chance I'm going to come if someone's pressuring me or I feel like I have to come for them. It's gone.
Then it's already ruined.
Yeah, it's ruined. Like, it's not going to happen because I'm like...
I'm the same way. If somebody's like really focused on that with me, I'm like, oh no, you're not getting it at all. Like, this is not why I'm here. I think it's like the difference between people that play games and really want to win and people that play games and really want to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Right? So people are doing a sport and they really have to win and they get really competitive.
Yeah. And that's how some people see sex.
Yes. And you have the people that just really want to enjoy the game and I'm not really here to win.
Just enjoy the whole fucking experience. And like, I don't care how long we're going to take. Like, and if we keep stopping and like, we just giggle and then we carry on, like, that's cool. It's not like, boom, 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 let's just do this and like, finish.
Right.
It's like, no, let's just have a laugh. Let's just have a laugh. That was so British of me.
Well, you are still British.
Yeah, unfortunately. Can I change that?
On that note.
Yes. Now this is really the end.
This is really the end.
Yeah, I have to go to bed.
We have to stop. So thank you.
Thank you.
And sleep well.
Won't you rub your fingers down my spine?